Is Specialized doomed? Other bike brands doomed as well? Or componentry and so forth? Ah, man. We are looking at some pretty tough times that we've currently been in and still going through. And is this gonna shake out? Let's review after this.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy. This is As the Wheel Turns, So Do Days of Our Rides series. I will be covering topics of the industry as well as consumer views with my 30 years experience.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy. As the wheel turns, so the days of our rides. Anyway, yes, there are some indicators, and I'm going to go through a few of those of actually bike brands and what does it look like today, or will it look like today? Because you're looking at particular bigger brands and they have done all these different, the landscape's completely changed, right? It's just nothing compared to the 90s. And the 90s is where I've seen a lot of shakeup, or the industry saw a lot of shakeup, and being the mix of it, being young and bright and bushy-tailed, a lot younger than I am now, was really just observing and not really questioning or understanding what I was seeing until after the fact or years later even. So when you're looking at the situation that we're in right now, fast forward 30 years later, that makes me feel old. Anyway, yikes. Anyway, yeah, let's go back and see what happened back then. All right. Well, we were a Trek dealer, and our main competition in town was a Specialized dealer. So looking back then, we carried Schwinn and Mongoose and GT and Fuji and Jameis over the years. And the biggest one that I remember or actually have seen and probably is still up to big debate now is watching Schwinn crumble. Schwinn was very strong when my parents picked up the line back in 1987 when they opened up the shop. I started working for them in '89, and being a fresh, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed mechanic, that was my first bikes that I worked on, built, and so forth. So going through the process of seeing how the company started behaving, in addition to doing their changes, they did open up a corporate store too in Denver, Colorado, saying like, oh, we're not going to step on the feet of, on the toes of the independent bike dealer, yada, yada, yada. Well, fast forward today, we got Trek and Specialized and Pond doing the same thing, but in a larger scale. So you can say they had the idea, but didn't execute it, and didn't execute it correctly or well or at all. Because that store only lasted just a minuscule hot minute before Schwinn crashed. What's the indicator of Schwinn crashing? Well, they had some internal issues, big time, that came to light later. The third generation owner, Eddie Schwinn, kind of drove it into the ground. So unfortunately, it's kind of historical. And when you look at these big boys, come on, think about it. Like, remember Circuit City? Remember Ultimate Electronics? Do you remember Bed Bath Beyond? And the biggest one that we all experienced, and my daughter doesn't even know what it is Blockbuster. Blockbuster was the biggest video rental thing. They had their own football college bowl. So needless to say, doesn't matter how big or small you are doomed to crash at some point. Unfortunately, Parker Bikes did the same thing. Painful. So I've seen it on small scale, seen them in the big scale, seen companies that we had Schwinn when it went down, and then it got bought by another company, and then they spruced up the line when we were still a Schwinn dealer. We carried through that transition and so forth. Fast forward to today. I know I'm getting a little long-winded on history, but also another indicator back in the day was you got random calls from companies like Klein, and also, what was it? There was a couple other brands out there. They would just cold call. They were cold calling the whole independent bike dealer list to try to get dealers because they were hurting and going under, and like a month or two later, they were bought or went bankruptcy or whatever. So there's indications and so forth. Well, fast forward to today. What is today's indications? Good question, right? Did anybody see the precursor of Bed Bath Beyond or Toys R Us going? I mean, maybe slowing their sales, open stock, whatever. Some indications there. Also, like GameStop, and they had that big influx, crazy thing from Reddit. But when you look at it, and today, I mean, okay, there's adjustments. There's always adjustments to companies, and sometimes they take the slowing of the economy or whatever excuse they can to cut the fat from the company that they know, and that gives them justifiable reason without, avoiding any kind of huge HR issues, which when you're a big company, you are worried about those HR issues. Those will actually kill you. So you want to make sure you tread lightly when you lay off a whole bunch of people and you have a good reason behind it, right? Anywho, why am I picking on Specialized? Well, there's a reason. Option, there is more. More, you say? Push the more button. Push it. Push it. I dare you to push it. Once you push that button, you get more details about the video you are watching, in addition to all the tools that I use in the shop, as well as suggestion for improving your ride. In addition to help me provide advocacy in the cycling community, also links to other social media accounts as well as my website to find the products I actually sell and other insights in the industry. Other videos linked below. Extend your cycling experience here on YouTube. And now back to your original programming. Okay, so for being in industry for 30 years and seeing companies come and fall with out of my industry and in my industry, like Sports Authority, get this, I was working at Big Five Sporting Goods when they went down. They were a competitor of ours. You can kind of see how it happened. Well, I know exactly what happened. I mean, I know you're not very familiar with the Colorado market, but we have this, football team called the Broncos. Not why I placed that there, but they have a stadium and it is called Empowered Field or something. Maybe that was afterwards. But Sports Authority, big chain of sporting goods across the nation, bought the name to be thrown onto that stadium. They didn't last more than 6 months after that deal, and the person that did that deal, the CEO, retired or stepped down before all went down. He knew. They did it they spent too much money and crashed themselves. Okay, big decisions like that, big steps, burn you, right? Okay, so that was not too long ago. That's within the last decade, right? Or ish, if I remember correctly. But anywho, or maybe a little bit longer. But when you're looking at Sports Authority and seeing crashes like that in the sporting industries, then that kind of translates and resonates with the bike companies today. Okay, let's just take this year snapshot. And it's been a crusty year. I mean, it just has been for the industry in the sense of, not necessarily for the consumer, it's been some bright lights for consumers, but for the actual industry itself. We came out of COVID, super hot, bought too much stuff, had too much inventory, the wrong inventory, and yada, 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 snowball effect, right? Yeah, so who pulled the oh crap lever first? I would say Specialized did. Reason being is they've pulled all their sponsor plugging. That's the first thing. And a line item, when you're an accountant, like that crap's gotta go. Why are we paying X amount of dollars for these racers and social media, whatever's? We're gonna reset this. Actually, that was a good move. Because if you really think about it, and I did a poll on my community page of like, what influences you to buy stuff, especially if it's new, right? Like I want a new bike or a mountain bike or tire or whatever, right? That's in the cycling industry specific. Well, one of the line items that I put on there is influenced by social media people like me that, like, hey, I've been paid to tell you about this one product and here you go. I think it's great. 0. All you people are smart. Let's put it that way. You want to listen to somebody who's actually using the products daily and going, I like this because it works and I use it and nobody's paying me to say that. Like that's going to have a lot more weight in gold, and also customer reviews, product reviews, that kind of thing. Also, if independent, like a bicycle magazine comes out with a review of a new bike or something of that nature, it's one of those things that really does kind of, resonate with the consumer, especially after we've been through the last couple of years. Some of us have had some economical strains, and tight purses to have to work with and still want to do the things we want to do. So we got to be a little more savvy about it. Influencers are now no bueno. Second in line, racers. I'm sorry, racers, but yeah, you may have influence channel of people following you and so forth, and you still probably have some people buying some things, but you're second to the bottom of zero, close into that of a few percent actually went and go, oh, okay, yeah, they race on this, it's pretty cool, I'm gonna buy it. Basically, that's their job, right? I mean, besides winning races and train and all that, their job to get paid is really sponsorship. You got to, do their product lines and so forth. Yeah, you got Jason Simona doing specialized things and that kind of thing. That probably had more impact than the racers, to be honest. And he doesn't ride, well, maybe he does ride now, I don't know, but it's one of those things I see him more on Harleys than anything else. But other than that, though, thinking about it, that was the first pull plug, oh crap, happened from Specialized, right? So that was about a year ago now, and now it's kind of a big shakeup, like they're pulling their market, on that, and you got all these races all bent out of shape and whatever. Did it hurt their bottom line? Absolutely not. So to save them money? Absolutely. Next thing was in line. Guess who started let's put everything on sale. Sale on the sale. They were one of the first, I think in November, that did the second lever. I mean, a company has several levers to pull to keep going, right? And that's when the Pros Closet, also another indicator of our first round of layoffs were in late fall, then another one around Christmas, I believe, and another one around spring. I think they had like 4 in the last year. So they're scaling down. Specialized did a scale down too. So putting their bikes on sale, scaling down. Trek apparently did some layoffs too. It was a little more quieter about it. But I think that was more of an adjustment because they have more stores now than they do as an independent bike dealers out there, in the sense that that's changed. So you don't need those independent reps, or not independent reps, but they're bike reps anymore. They need territorial managers. They need store managers. So they need to cut here and add there, basically what was going on. With Specialized, I think they just needed to cut. That was a good way to just kind of get rid of a few of those departments or things they're just not producing as well as they would like, that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. That's where we're going. Why am I still picking on Specialized? Because they were kind of a leader on this whole, I see the tea leaves, let's readjust, and we don't care if we're the first ones to go. To do these things, and it continues. It's like one of those situations that are going to hold back on opening more stores. And now they're opening more stores under the InCycle brand, that kind of thing. Needless to say, are they hurting? I think we're all hurting. Let's just put it that way. Throw that out there. We're all hurting. Anyway, fast forward to going towards this summer. We had a late kickoff. Things didn't move right. They had a readjustment and so forth. So another big thing for Specialized, and I do pick on them again, is they released this SL8. Well, they released it after the big cycling season window. You saw Trek introduce their fancy paint jobs to Tour de France. Tour de France is the Super Bowl of cycling. It is. It's bigger. It's bigger than mountain. It's more seen. It's more televised. All those things. Even though mountain bikes may have more sales, but Tour de France road bikes have more publicity. And when you're looking at the European market on top of that, that is a big chunk. So looking at all those perspectives, yes, we're in a situation where they missed the boat of hitting the window for Tour de France. I don't know, because they didn't have them in stock yet, or production, or didn't want to release it, or they didn't have them in the Tour. Maybe they did have them in the Tour. I don't remember hearing about that frame in the Tour. So the SL8 frame, the fancier, lighter weight, whatever frame, that kind of flopped a little bit because people were like, but that was another indicator, is when the industry slows down, they have all this new tech in line, and they need to start releasing it to energize the market, right? To get the market back, you know, trying to get people excited about buying stuff again. Yeah. And then Trek came out with their Slash little multi-link crazy chain thing, which I still don't have my head around, but hey, that's not me, you know, whatever. But they're doing it. So you're going to see a lot more tech roll out there. Then you get smashed by this Shimano big recall from Dura-Ace and Ultegra 11 speeds, and that's a big tobacco going on here now within the componentry group. So what's going to shake out? Who's going to be the first to fall? I hope none of them fall. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not one of those things that I'm like gunning for them. But I'm going to just tell you from an independent bike dealer, not about as independent as you get, because I do sell brands, but I buy the brands and I have no contract with those brands, meaning I buy used, everything pretty much used. And when I do buy new, it's what I want to buy that's new, not some rep or company. I'm basically independent as you can be. Because back in the day in the 90s, we were an independent bike dealer, and this was a conversation I've had with a thread with another YouTuber that was watching. It's like, well, independent bike dealers are not really independent anymore because they got contracts with the dealers, and they actually pigeonhole you to carry so much percentage of the brands on the floor, and you can't carry other brands and so forth. And it's kind of like preseason qualities and all these things. And they've always had preseason qualifiers, but they were a lot lower back in the 90s. And hell, we had like 5 or 6 different lines on our floor. Versus nowadays, if you're a Trek or a Specialized dealer, they were only giving you like 10 or 15% of a different brand on your floor, on their floor. Well, they're almost thinking it was their floor at that point. So, and they're also pushing all these particular minimums of clothing and bikes and accessories and all these things down your throat. Specialized has been notoriously known as that kind of company that strongholds you to carry all this product. Sorry, Specialized, but it is the honest to God truth that you put the pressure in pressurize. And coming into the fast forward today, oh yeah, I did forget, they went to direct to consumer. That was actually the first indicator before they cut the line of the sponsorships and the actual erasers. Okay, direct to consumers, and they kind of pooped on their dealers. Kinda, they really did. Let's just say, I mean, no holds bar. I'm not saying this to be mean, but this is what I see. And being an independent bike dealer in the day and also now, if I was a Specialized dealer, which I know a few really miffed off about a lot of this. And I would say the Trek dealers are probably about the same. Maybe they're a little sugar-coated a little bit more. They may not be squeaking as much, but they're getting the short end of the stick too. It just happens to be that way. Cannondales are the same with the pond moving around and doing, I think they're going to do direct to consumer too. Kona is a smaller line that had to do direct to consumer just to keep up with the big boys. Well, who instigated all this? Canyon. Canyon was smart, got it working in Europe. German company came here, scared the pants off of Specialized and Trek and everybody else. Direct to consumer, and it actually works, then, well, the Trek hasn't done that, but they doing stores, and Specialized is doing stores and a little bit. So you heard that phrase, the jack of all trades and the master of none kind of thing. That's what Specialized is kind of in the boat right now, because they're not being really great on releasing really, really cool stuff, which they've super have marketing and influence and branding. It's still huge. You can't combat that. It's like the Pepsi, the Coca-Cola battle. They're a household name across the nation in other countries and all that. So you can't take that away from them. But they're muddling their brand. They're messing with their dealers that have been supporting them all these years. And I would hate to be a Specialized dealer and being a Specialized dealer for 30 years and all of a sudden going, whatever, you know. And they're not playing by the same ball field because they're not giving them the margins on those direct to consumers. They're shorting them. I mean, come on. So when you look at a corporate-owned store, Trek or Instinct, Specialized, upon Mike's Bikes alike, they're not dealing with the 30% margin on the bikes that the independent bike dealers are dealing with. They're dealing with something kind of more like Keystone, which is like 50%, if not more, because they are actually the wholesaler, right? So they got the costs on wholesaling, and then they have this huge margin buffer to work with. Well, when you're a brick and mortar and you got expensive rent and you got employees and all that stuff, that margin gets really, really small. Back to Specialized, muddling the water. Okay, they missed the boat on the brand new release. Well, I had a conversation with a customer of mine, which owns several Specialized bikes and bought some new and some used. And I have a few Specialized in my stable. I'm not talking about anything against the actual tech and the bike itself. I'm talking about the company and how it's running and what direction it's going. Well, they're getting their pants beaten on them from Trek in the sense of the service with their particular brick and mortar stores. And what I'm saying about that, bike shops is basically two businesses in one roof. And actually a lot of times it's three. But let's just talk about the big two: bike sales and service. And it's more than like your car dealership. They sell cars and then they have a service department. But most people don't take their cars to the service department of the dealers. Most of the time they'll find their other mechanic. Bike industry is different. You got your bike shop portion where they sell the bikes and they have the service, which a lot of people, for convenience, is like getting your milk at your local store. That's where you get your bike worked on, right? And you develop a rapport with the service department as much as well as the salespeople. But it's almost like two different businesses. And actually, for me, it's two separate insurances. So when you look at that, it's like insurance company, they look at it two different businesses. So that's what it really is. And the third one, outlier, is the fitting services. Some shops do it, some don't, that kind of thing, which they charge $300 plus to do the dynamic fitting and so forth. Where am I going with this? Well, service department, okay, InCycle for Specialized stores, they have a shop, they sell the bikes, they have a service department-ish, right? And they probably have some really mechanics carried over from the acquisitions of buying those stores or hiring and so forth. There's some good mechanics out there, and I'm not dogging them at all, not dogging the employees at all. I'm just adding the management and what their perspective and what they're trying to do. Well, Trek has taken this ball and ran with it for the brick and mortar stores. And they've been doing this for over 5 years now, 6 years. And I was part of the mix of it back in the day. Don't want to bore you, but I was part of a software company called Retail Toolkit. We had a lot of clients. We did the back-end inventory management. That's where my position was. That's where my software experience has been current from. So I saw when these stores were being sold to Trek, they'd cut us immediately because they didn't use us at all. And then I'd know the numbers of the stores, and they were like, we need to buy these stores because they don't want them to fail and they don't want them just to shut down. So, and these are like owners are just moving on, don't want to do this anymore, whatever. So the first one was Revolution Cyclery in DC, what I remember. And then Lee's is like third or fourth on the list in Fort Collins, Colorado, that turned into Trek. So 6 years they have the jump on Specialized on this. Okay, yeah, they have a little more experience at the retail aspect of it. It's a whole different game. It took Trek a few years to get their head straight because at first they were really dumb about it. Now they've got it really dialed, and now they're actually pushing it forward. How they're pushing it forward? 24-hour service. You know, like, wow, that's a bold move to have 24-hour service. Being a service manager myself, I got it to 48, and now it's pushing hard with really good mechanics. So they're doing 24-hour service, so they got to have their ducks in a row. And I was just dealing with one shop. They were doing like over 400 plus now or something like that, some insane number that they're pushing. So yeah, there's a lot of different service departments that they're dealing with. In addition to, that's one thing that's kicking Specialized, like they're still a week to 10 days out or whatever. So that's not going to resonate between anybody looking for a bike to get tuned up, regardless of brand. And number two is they have suspension service in addition to that. They can take your shock, send it to one of the Trek certified service departments, there's 6 of them or something like that across the nation that they built up, get them tuned and be sent back to the shop, which is very smart on Trek because training 400 stores with the mechanics on how to do suspension service on suspension, front and rear, in different years and models, That is too much of a lift. They got smart. They're like, they took the, I'm going to plug them because I like them and they're local in Longmont. Um, damn it, what's the name of the company? Dirt Labs. Dirt Labs does suspension. That's all they do. They used to be a bike shop, and now they do only suspension, front and rear. I think they have a pretty flat rate. They go pretty far back. Look them up if you need any suspension done. Same concept. You could ship it to them. They'll fix it or do the tune-up or whatever and send it back to you. Good caps down there. And that's what basically Trek is modeled that, right? So they've taken that and made 6 of these or 7 of these locations nationwide, and they have the shocks being sent in from all their stores, and they get sent back. And they also, the kicker is like, oh, if your bike's being worked on, it might take about a week, but we will definitely give you a lender bike to use while doing this service. That's double fold for them. First, they're getting the service sale, and then they get the demo, cut your teeth on the new product, stash or whatever, bike on the trails. Brilliant. Brilliant. Specialized, what you got? Nothing. You gotta go anywhere with that? Nope. You have an answer to that? Okay, so what are you doing in the brick and mortar stores? You're throwing out some bikes and you hope your branding gets people in the door and maybe do a little service. That's half doing it. And on top of that, 3, mic drop on this one. Okay, they did trade-ins, right? On the sales side of it, back to the sales side of the business, they did trade-ins, Trek did, and they used Bicycle Blue Book as their, they'd do a trade-in, undercut anybody that would trade in a bike, so I wouldn't recommend it. I'd sell it yourself. Look at videos that I have and sell your own stuff. That kind of thing, or look for a person like me to have your stuff sold and or to buy it and to sell it, because that way you're going to get a little bit more money of the higher end of the Bicycle Blue Book price range versus dealer trade-in, which is it's like half, which is painfully stupid to just give your bike away, that kind of thing. So going back to the trade-in, they've upped their game. They said, okay, we're going to still do all trade-ins. We're going to really advertise trade-ins, and we're going to also trade in your Treks. And we're going to keep the Treks. And we're going to take our Treks, and we're going to take them to the Red Barn in Wisconsin. And that's where the Trek started back in 1976 or something like that, in the Red Barn in Wisconsin. And they're going to take all these Treks, refurbish them, and sell them, I think, online. Okay, here is the bit that's a disconnect on Trek. I mean, they're doing this. It's great. Specialized, do you do trade-ins? Nope. So they're doing trade-ins. They're bringing in their brands, and they're selling them online. I'm not sure exactly where yet. I've not found that out. But the disconnect is those bikes should go back onto the floor. Why? If you're a Trek upper exec or Specialized exec going all pissed off because you're listening to me bad-mouthing your company-ish, take it for a grain of salt. I'm independent. I don't care. I have opinions, yes, but they're going to be truth and straightforward. Trek, you need to get those bikes on the floor right next to that road bike that's used. Needs to be right next to that brand new road bike. Reason being, you got to give that customer an opportunity to buy a bike that's under $1,000 to get into. You're disconnecting the entry-level riders on all levels. If you bring in your used in those floor spaces, you give those salespeople an option like, I got this used one here, it's dialed. That gives you 2 things. First, it gives you a bike sale with all the accessories that go to a newbie. And second, it gives you brand confidence. Why? If somebody buys a $4,000 road bike, they know it's still going to have some value as a used bike. Not stupid, pretty smart stuff. Think about it. Specialized, if you're writing notes, yeah, angrily with a big crayon. Hey, think about it. Specialized, same thing. Take your used bikes, do a used trade-in, Sell your non-brand specialized trade-ins to whoever else, Pros Closet, whoever will take them, or do it yourself like Trek is. And then you have a specialized Roubaix like I have listed. Maybe I'll have a picture here. A Roubaix under 1,000. It might be a few years older, right next to your new Roubaix. But you're giving that customer an option to get into road riding without walking in the door. Brand new road rider, wants to get a road bike, hasn't ridden in like 10 years since they were a kid. Look at your $3,000 bikes, walks right out, and doesn't even talk to a salesperson. Won't talk to a salesperson. Will not. No way in hell they're going to talk to a salesperson. Why? They're like, this is not the place for me. Your prices are just showing that. If you have used options for people to lead people in, there you have an opportunity. So yeah, with Specialized, you got some catching up to do. If you're going to do the brick and mortar, you got to keep up, and you need to get ahead. Chuck's got you beat, pants down, big time when you're looking at brick and mortar. Okay, when you're looking at the big company, I'm getting a little long-winded here, and this video is going a little long. Let's wrap this up. This danger is not specific to just Specialized or Trek. It's to any of those companies that are just straggling, hanging on for dear life. And we're in a situation where we had a late season, a short season, and we're over inventory, and there's nobody buying. So what are you going to do about it? There's got a lot of different things, the levers that Specialized has been pulling. But at some point, you're going to run out of levers to pull. Trek apparently has a bigger cash flow because they didn't pull any punches until putting their bikes on sale until like late spring. I mean, they seem to be fine, doing okay. Well, okay, still not great. You're probably doing some really good in some markets and really crappy in others. They're cutting back their hours. Well, all bike shops are this time of year because it's fall. But they're closing their doors on Mondays. Retail on Mondays at corporate stores. My Big Five experience. Somebody's having a heart attack. Like, you're shutting your what? Actually, you should be extending your hours, splitting those shifts, whatever you need to do. They're not going to buy stuff if you walk up and the door's like, can't open it. Yeah, I worked in sporting goods retail for almost 9 years. Like Big Five Sporting Goods. Big chain, over 400 or 500 stores and growing. Been around for over 50 years plus. They know their crap. So with all those perspectives and being trained by them and learning their perspectives, the cycling industry needs to start grabbing some of those embracements, right? I'm not telling like the independent bike dealer that you got to be open till 9 o'clock at night. I'm telling the corporate stores to do that. Come on. You keep 1 or 2 people on staff later at night. You might catch those after dinner sales. Just saying. I'm just telling you what, my traffic flow at Big Five Sporting Goods in Fort Collins, Colorado, we had a lull, of course, every day, Monday through Friday, around 6 or 7, it'll be like a downtime. That's when everybody was like, did their dinner, whatever, got home and what have you. But after that, a lot of times they were dragged back out of the house or like, oh, I wanted to go buy this. Oh, I need to go pick up my bike. I need to go do this or whatever. We had almost always, a big flux of traffic between 7:30 to 8:30. And sometimes that was the biggest hour of the day in sales. If you're open to the consumer's going to come. If you build it, they will come, right? If you're open, they will come in the door. Oh, so what if you're like dead for an hour afterwards? There's a whole bunch of cleaning that needs to be done. That's what we did at Big Five, and organizing and straightening and doing inventory and so forth. If you have service work, there's plenty to work on, plenty of the bikes to build, which is the caveat to the bike shops. There's always something to do. And I walked into the Trek store, and I was asking them about their, they were telling me they were closing, but they have their guys coming in early to work on bikes like at 8. I'm like, there's your missed opportunity right there. You don't open until 10. Don't have anybody coming in until like 9:30 or 10. Then you have like those mechanics work later to the night, and you catch some of that extra evening sales, especially in the areas where it's off season. It was like you can't be doing this in the South because this is their busy season right now, starting. It's their spring for riding. This is too damn hot in the summer to ride. So down like that's where my sales are going to come from. I'm preparing to ship a lot more bikes because Florida, the Bible Belt area, Texas, Arizona, South Cal, they're all going to get busy because they're going to be riding and want to be riding and get newer bikes and so forth. And that's what is currently with 4 years of doing this, have seen that flip. And yeah, I do still sell some other bikes to people that are getting anticipation of the season or what have you, but most of those sales are going to be south. And that's what was the eye-opener for me back in the 90s, where it's like, oh, the bike shops down in Florida, they're busy in the wintertime? Well, yeah, because that's their peak season. Granted, that's not the majority of the sales when you look at it as a big corporate, but still is a definitely influx of increase of sales for whatever numbers that may be. So when you're looking at the retail stores there. So back to my original quote. Is this it for Specialized or others? Maybe, maybe not. But hey, leave some comments below. You probably hate me or whatever. That's fine. Just trying to, my perspective of straight truth. And, one of those things that's brought to me that a bike shop should have a voice of airing their angered issues. But unfortunately, if you are a Specialized or a Trek dealer, independent dealer, you're afraid to say anything, I'm more than happy to say it for you because neither of them have a thumb hold on me whatsoever, even though I do sell the used product, but I'm talking about the companies, not the brand of bikes themselves, the product itself. So, Trek's done some good things. I do have to give them that. They're giving their employees benefits and all that good stuff, and it's a good place to work, and they're really working to be a good environment for their employees, which kudos to them, Specialized. Hopefully you're doing the same suit. It is providing more stores that are a little more stable and in some areas. That's true. So there are some positives to this. But when you're looking at the companies and the health and how they pressured the independent bike dealers out of it, kind of pulls at my heartstrings a lot, angrily. And it's just one of those situations that, yeah, I would hope that there's a little more of a give to those independent bike dealers because that's what got you here in the first place. And second, provide those stores opportunities to thrive correctly and also provide a better service to the customer at the end of the day and not be so elitist. I did say that. Sorry. Kind of are. When your lowest bikes are $4 or $5 grand on the floor, you're not giving anybody any good warm and fuzzies when they walk in and they're trying to get into road riding or buy a kid's bike or any of that case. Just saying. Anywho, thanks for spending some time with me. This is my insights of as the wheel turns, so are the days of our rides. Until next time, from the garage. And yeah, leave a comment below, whatever. Let's keep the conversation going. Maybe I'll spark up another one. Until next time.